A prominent Nigerian televangelist is sparking intense debate with explosive claims about the history of violence against Christians in the country. Apostle Michael Olowokere made the remarks during a recent sermon that has since gone viral on social media. The preacher alleges that the root of terrorism and mass killings of Christians in Nigeria stretch back decades, long before recent security crisis. He claims he grew up in northern Nigeria, already knowing that Christians were endangered species. Let's take a look.
In 1992-93 in Kaduna, a riot broke out which they call the Zango Kataf riot. I was a young boy, very, very young then, and people were killed in scores. If you are not an Afsa person practicing Muslim in Islam, they were killed. Especially if you are from the southern part of Kaduna, the tribes from the southern part of Kaduna, they were massacred. It was called the Zango Kataf riot. And if the next thing they do is to burn churches, kill Christians, and then if they are done with that, then they focus on businesses that is for Igbo people, Igbo-owned businesses, and they destroyed it. I grew up knowing that Christians are an endangered species in Nigeria. In the year 2000, when the Sharia riots, how many of you have heard of the Sharia riots? Hundreds of thousands of people were killed in Kaduna. I can remember vividly that we had to defend our house from people. They brought some Fulani boys and they faced our house. They were shooting arrows. They were stoning our zinc. They spot our zinc, shooting arrows. Even though I was a Muslim then, even though my father was a Muslim then, but because majority of the people in our compound were Christians, so they were willing to destroy every one of us because we're living with Christians.
All right, everyone's speaking up now, Rufai. And these are serious historical claims from the preacher, and they've, clearly struck a chord, particularly among Nigerian Christians who say his account reflects experiences that have been overlooked far too long. The question many are now asking is, when did targeted attacks against Christians actually begin? Was it decades ago, as the apostle suggests, or gradually escalating over time? Or is it primarily tied to more recent insurgencies and banditry, as authorities often claim at the moment? Rufai, he highlighted different aspects from, I believe, 2014 all the way down to the time of Goodluck Jonathan. He mentioned names and talked about how banditry started, how terrorism started, documented facts. I mean, I encourage our viewers to, go watch the full clip. It was about 15 minutes. I know you wanted to speak on Wole Soyinka as well. I'd like for you to tie in both stories, and I'll take this.
See, I have seen a lot of ignorance. I'm playing to the gallery since this conversation started. I can see a lot of folks now think it's a fight between Christians and Muslims. It is not. And I've repeated that for the upton time.
Yes.
Secondly, there are extremists across every religion. Every religion. Yes, as extremism across every religion you can think of. As long as there's a religion, there's a belief system, there are people that take their belief system to extreme. That's what extremism is all about.
So I think the point he's making, that's Professor Wole Soyinka, in terms of extremism, he's talking about the killings that have occurred so far. I don't think that we should compare apples and oranges here about the extremism in terms of religion in that regard.
Oji, I'm making my point,
Yes.
and I know where I'm going.
Okay.
You cannot make my point for me.
Okay.
They are extremists.
But you have to explain what you mean by
across
extremism
every
in
religion.
the other religions.
And I succinctly explained, Oji, by saying that as long as you have a belief system, which is a religion, they are extremists across that.
Okay.
What is happening in this regard, all right, is genocide against Christians. Muslims too are being killed. We get that. But the people that this killing has happened selectively and that they have complained in Benue, Yelwata, and other areas are Christians.
Correct.
And it passes the law of genocide because replacement is also happening. They can't go back to those communities. All right? So if Wole Soyinka is talking about extremism, no, this is just persecution and genocide killings against Christians.
Islamic extremists, that's what he meant, yeah.
So extremists, Islamic extremism,
That's what he meant.
I do not think it's right to put terrorist killing groups that have an agenda under extremism. I do not think so, because it's not right. Because it's an orchestrated agenda. And guess what? They do not kill so solely for that intent. They also engage in criminality, they also engage in crime, and they set out to kill a particular group of people. So I'm just trying to make a clear decision out of it. Secondly, what this reverend is saying is not today. We all know about the Zango Kataf riots.
Yes.
We all know, even way back, the Zango Kataf has spanned many years. Interreligious and ethnic problems. But the rabbit hole a lot of people are pushing the narrative to, that I don't want us to go to, is the fact that, oh, it's Christians against Muslims. Because so you have extremists Christian mentality, then you have extreme Muslim mentality. And I'll give you a very strong point. While some people are trying to push this argument that it's Christian Muslim, one of our analysts that used to normally come here, Dahiru, was saying, and he came out clearly on television saying, I'm a Muslim, but I don't support what the Sultan said to mitigate the fact that there's Christian genocide in this country. So does it mean every Muslim think like that? No. There are some Muslims that know that there's Christian genocide and they're speaking up against it. Dahiru spoke.
They are speaking up against the Islamic extremists.
So let's be clear as regards this. That's just the point I'm making. Because there's a lot of ignorance. And people, when they go the path of ignorance, they also go the path of extremism.
All right. So I'd like to read out these statistics as well before I come to you. In another development, international Christian advocacy organizations have intensified calls for action over violence against Christians in Nigeria, citing alarming statistics and high-profile cases of religious persecution. Well, according to Catholic Arena and Open Doors, 3,100 Christians were killed during their most recent reporting period, with 69% of all global faith-related murders occurring in Nigeria. The organizations highlighted brutal cases including 19-year-old Deborah Samuel lynched by a mob who recorded her killing and celebrated it publicly before walking free from court. Father Isaac Achi burned alive when terrorists firebombed his church, and seminarian Naman Danlami executed by kidnappers because he was Christian. They note that 12 states in northern Nigeria have enforced Sharia law since the 1990s, creating systematic persecution of Christians and threatening converts with death. Also, Leah Shaibu, kidnapped by ISWAP in 2018, remains in captivity for refusing to convert to Islam. The groups accuse the Nigerian government of being, at best, useless or at worst, complicit, citing President Muhammadu Buhari's 2022 decision to proceed with a public event hours after the Pentecost terror attack. Well, U.S. Representative Riley Moore has responded to the report in a post on X, stating, Nigeria is the most dangerous place in the world to be a Christian. 50,000 to 100,000 of our brothers and sisters in Christ have been martyred. Since 2009 in Nigeria, 7,000 have been murdered. This year alone, that's 35 Christians murdered per day. Thank you to the President of the United States for designating Nigeria as a country of particular concern to end the bloodshed, and for asking me to lead this investigation in the House. Thank you, Catholic Arena, for helping to shed light on this genocide. And, you know, Riley Moore has been quite vocal. In fact, he has, opened an investigation in the House at this moment as we speak. He's been granting interviews even up until last night. He spoke about the fact that they're all coming together to support what he says. I mean, President Trump doesn't really need any sort of backing, but he says that they are backing President Trump with the proposal of coming into Nigeria to put boots on ground.
So I believe that if we had acknowledged the problem at the instance, or even before President Trump spoke about it, we wouldn't see all these numbers that are stacked. Maybe we even needed it to actually understand the reality of what Christians in Nigeria are going through. Now, this also reveals the fact that there's a different experience for Christians living in the South and Christians living in the North. And if you listen to a lot of people who have spoken, if you listen to the pastors in the North, they have a much deeper experience, whether it's from Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo, I spoke to a few of them, Pastor Chris Delvan, I spoke to Pastor, a few pastors who have a congregation in the north, and they will tell you what they've been facing through. Then you come to the south and they're like, Bimba, are you not a Christian? Do you feel persecuted? It's a different reality. And we cannot judge based on our limited view, and even be grateful for the fact that we experience and enjoy religious freedom in the south. And so it's a different reality. It's almost as if there are two nations. One is a different set of rules in the south and a different set of rules for the north. And at this point, I think it's high time Nigerians apologized to the Christians living in the north. For too long, their voices have been left unheard. For decades. And now we see a lot of people now coming out, and they're not just coming out to speak, they're coming out with receipts, pictures, gory. You saw the pictures yesterday that someone sent to you. Gory pictures, children, adults, pastors, churches being burnt. And yet somebody is still trying to color the word and saying, no, let's not call it. Okay, call it whatever name. Let me even marry the names together. It is genocide orchestrated by extremists. Is that satisfactory? Right. Genocide. Okay, if you need to watch Professor Bolaji Akinyemi's interview earlier on, and he did an interview with a U.S. congressman as well, and it was based on facts. Right. Because the U.S. congressman, she gave us more context when we spoke to her that he actually has churches in the north. These people hear stories directly from the ground. Correct. Don't forget that we still have missions of American churches that establish churches in the north, and they hear what their people are saying. So can we ask now that, having established the fact that there is a genocide and a deliberate attack on religious freedom in the north, can we address this? Let's leave the nomenclature. Right. Let's leave the propaganda. Let's leave the, oh no, it's not this. Can we have done these people an injustice for too long? Right. Finally, on the point of the religious leaders, I think aside from the lack of political will and the irresponsibility of government, and I say that with all due respect, is also the silence of a number of Christians in the south who had religious freedom and watched their northern brothers go through it all and do nothing. Right. When Charlie Kirk died in America, Nigeria took it as if it was one of their brothers. And it was one of the criticisms that a number of churches said, that we have thousands of people dying in the north. Not once have you used your platform to make a case for them. Right. Then someone in America dies because the US has carried the news. We now all came out. I put it to all. I'm a member of the constituent, so I speak responsibly about this. That it is high time that the Christians in the south, who have the privilege and blessing of religious freedom, to speak up for their brothers and sisters in the north and use the platform that God has given them to actually ensure that we find a solution and let there be true peace and religious freedom in Nigeria for both the Christians, the Muslims, and anyone who wants to stay on their own. Well said, Ayo, really well said. I mean, imagine the televangelist saying that he grew up in the north, thinking that Christians, or believing that Christians were endangered species in Nigeria.